First thing I want to talk about in this review, multi-part review, physical differences and similarities of these two cameras. The Nikon D5200 is here on the left and the Canon T4i or 650D is on the right. Before we get into specific differences, let's talk about some general similarities in that both of these cameras with their 18 to 55 lenses on feel very similar in the hands. They're about the same weight. The grip is similar. We'll talk a little bit about specific differences on that in a second. But in general, they're very similar. Now, let's dive right into discussing these cameras here. We have two nice LCD screens. Both of them are really similar in resolution. The Nikon has recently, with the D5200, updated this screen and given it more of a graphical look, and we have these kind of circle representations for our shutter speed, our aperture, and our ISO. And if we put that into aperture mode real quick and change that dial, you can see that, it changes and shows you graphically what your aperture would be doing at those different f-stops. But let's put it back on P so that they're both on the same. The big difference on these screens isn't one that you can see, but is probably one you're already aware of, and that is that the T4i offers a touch screen. So I just touched that little Q menu option there, and now I can come up here and I can touch, and I can make changes just by touching. This is something that I was not terribly excited about. I thought that that would get in the way a lot of the time and be annoying, but I have to say it's really nice, and it's a feature that I like on the T4i. The touchscreen works very nicely, and I tell you, the Nikon could really stand to use from that. Sometimes the menu system on the screen is a little on the dense side, and using this little controlled directional pad to select what you want feels a little tedious after using the touchscreen. That's just a little bit of a note. In general, though, we have this little multifunction selector here with the OK button in the middle. On the Canon side, we have buttons in each of the directions with a set button in the middle, our playback. So, you know, the buttons may look a little bit different and be labeled differently, but they're pretty much all there and very similar. I didn't mention this yet, but of course both of these screens are the flip out and flip around screen. They're identical in that respect as far as where they can turn to and how they flip and the hinge mechanism, things of that sort. On the Nikon side, it sticks out just a little bit further, but not a huge difference. Let's talk about on the side here the grips. So very similar. I tell you what, I find myself really liking the feel and the material of the Nikon more so than the Canon, but the Canon shape and depth of that grip is just a little bit deeper, and I like that. It gives my fingers, I have about normal sized man hands, gives my hands a little bit more something to grab onto. If I could combine these two grips, the material of the Nikon with the depth of the Canon, I would be very, very happy, but honestly not a huge difference there. Looking at the front of the cameras, not a whole lot of difference here either. One important difference to note, though, is that the Nikon offers this little flashlight that is the low light lamp assist, low light focus assist lamp. And in lower light, that will come on to help the camera focus. The Canon has a little light there, but it's not able to use it for that. And what the Canon does in lower light is pops up the flash and does a little strobe, which is usually quite annoying and makes your subjects think that the photo has already been taken, or gets them all squinty before the picture has even been taken, whereas this lamp is much less harsh and is just kind of a soft flashlight. So that's something that I really like about the Nikons. It can be avoided on the Canons by one, you can turn it off, but then the camera's going to struggle to focus in low light. Or two, you can put an external flash on that uses its infrared light to help it focus, and that makes a difference. But that's obviously putting something else on. On the sides of the camera here, the Nikon Only difference really is that it has this little function button on the side that you can assign a variety of menu options to. In this case, the default is the ISO. So by default, hitting that in the PSA or M modes will allow you to change your ISO by rotating the little control wheel. There's the flash pop-up. They both have that. Both of these 18 to 55 lenses do offer the image stabilization, as Canon calls it, or vibration reduction, as Nikon calls it. Onto the side here, I'm not sure how well this will show up in the video. We have our mic port, our download or USB connection, and GPS connection. We have our wired remote and wireless remote. I'll mention that actually right now. It doesn't come with this, but for $60 you can buy this tiny little dongle, and I mean it is tiny. It will you can insert it in that point, and then it will live stream the viewfinder to a smartphone or tablet and allow you to take a picture, and then that picture will be immediately downloaded too. It's a direct connection. You don't need Wi-Fi. Your smartphone uses Wi-Fi to connect directly to it. So you can do that out in the woods. You can do it wherever. So it's quite nice for group pictures. Again, it's just $60, and I think anybody considering a D5200 that has a smartphone, I would go ahead and pay that money for, one, the immediate downloading while you're out in the field, and two, the ability to see live view and take nice group shots that you're included in. HDMI out is there as well. Over on the on the Canon side, we have two doors, but basically the same stuff is under there. We have our mic port, our remote, wired remote. We have our HDMI. We have our USB connection for downloading. There is no port for a wireless dongle like the Nikon has, and there is no port for GPS, but Canon does offer an expensive but excellent GPS that slides into the hot shoe and talks directly to the camera and will geotag your pictures that way. If we look at the top of these two cameras side by side, a lot of similarities as well. They both have dials, imagine that, and they both have control wheels. The Canon's is found in the front, the Nikon's is found right in the back. We have a switch here that sets to live view, and on the Canon that's a little button on the bottom. Your on-off switch, your on-off switch is side of the dial. One interesting difference, there's no spacing in the dial here, and this dial can continuously turn 360 degrees. On the Canon side, there is an end to the dial, and then you have to turn it back the other way. So, just a difference. Both of them have stereo microphones that work quite nicely, and you do have audio control over your levels in both of those cameras. Those are just a look at the physical differences and similarities. If I had to pick which there's more of, I'd say there's more similarities in these two entry-level DSLR cameras from Canon and Nikon. The real question in the subsequent parts of this review are going to really look into, one, operation, and two, output. What do the image files look like that are coming out of these on both auto mode and the manual and the subsequent creative modes and things of that sort that you can use. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment down below. If you haven't already subscribed, do so. There will be more videos coming, and I am always happy to answer questions, and I thank you for watching. Have a good day.